Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Shayna Keller, and I'm curious about the question of, do humans really consume a credit card worth of plastic in a week? That's about 4 to 5 grams of plastic a week, which means about a gram a day, maybe 0.75 grams a day. So I want to explore this question, and we're going to end with a paper that argues against this thought. I, much like many of you, have seen the headlines that say, hey, humans are consuming a credit card worth of plastic a day. And there's another one that we consume 50 plastic bags a year. And I don't know if that's like zipper bags or grocery store bags, but that's a lot of plastic. It really has me like piqued in interest in what the heck is going on here. So let's start with, how do we even get exposed to plastic to begin with? All right, I know you guys have had this experience. You have a Tupperware and you are warming up spaghetti or something that's tomato based, and you throw it in the microwave. You keep the lid on it, or you throw a paper towel, that way it's not splattering all over. And you pull it out after about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, and you notice as you're eating your lunch that, man, there's like these little indents on the side. What is that from? That's plastic being burned into your food. I recently met a gal who said that there is Tupperware made for oven use. Plastic that's oven safe. With everything I know about plastic, I call BS right away on that. I am not a fan of plastic, lots of things. This journey has taken place over a period of time rather than like expecting it to happen immediately though. So like I said in my intro, I want this to be practical. I'm going to scare you guys a little bit, but I also want it to be practical in how you can have stepwise journey changes to incorporating less plastic and, just being more mindful of how we're using our plastic. So plastic and heat pretty much should not be used ever. Okay, well, what about my non-stick pans and I need to use a plastic spatula? Well, we'll talk about non-stick pans probably another time, but it would be pertinent for you to maybe do a little digging. The non-stick pans are, well, pretty problematic. I really recommend people watch a movie, Dark Waters, Hollywood 2019. Anyway, really well done movie. I fact checked it while I was going along, talking about PFAs. We'll talk about that in another one. Plastic, sort of, but not in the same sense that we're talking about here. Plastics are petroleum based, oil based. So while we're getting all hot to trot about gas cars, we're forgetting about plastic and how prevalent it is in our day-to-day use, every moment use, actually. Let me think. I've got plastic next to me in multiple arenas. My phone case, the little cap for my camera, the little SD card reader, parts on my microphone, my sunglasses, my hat, right? So plastic is around us all the time. What are we going to do about it? The first rule in environmental medicine is to avoid. Avoid, avoid, avoid. Avoid as best you can. And starting with heated plastic, I think, is step number one. Plastic should never be heated. I don't care if the Tupperware lady says that it's heat safe. It's not. Microwave, plastic should not go in a microwave. Plastic should not go in an oven. Plastic should not go in a hot pan. Why? I'll do a case in point. Probably have a little bit of anxiousness because I've spent time in the research about this. So I'll just let you know that this is a bias that I have inherently. So my husband and I, before we got married, we made all the food in a kitchen that we rented, and we had a bunch of friends and a bunch of family come help us prep before our wedding. We forgot to bring utensils, like spatulas and spoons and stuff like that to, to stir and flip the meat and everything like that. But we did have a plastic spatula. And mind you, we rented a commercial kitchen, so they had a big commercial stovetop. Those things get hot and they keep their heat much better than the average home appliance does. So in my brain, I was like, oh my God, we're about to have melted plastic into the meat. And I had a small meltdown and I quickly let it go because it's like, there's only so much that can be within your control. And anyone that's ever planned a wedding knows that there's a lot that goes into it. Throughout that time that the person that was cooking the corn on the stove, the plastic spatula started to melt, and I knew that it would because I've had this experience before. I knew it would because I've had the experience rather than I knew it would out of theory. I grew up with nonstick pans and plastic spatulas, just like the average American has. So keep that in mind. This is a journey, right? Okay, so warming plastic out the door. All right, where else do we get exposed to plastic? Ladies or anybody that wears makeup. There are so many plastics, petroleum-based products, parabens, phthalates, BPA, or excuse me, we'll call them bisphenols because BPA is free in most things now, but we have bisphenol F and bisphenol S, and God only knows what other bisphenols that these engineers are coming up with, and it's pretty cool stuff. Let's be honest, plastic has really improved the average human's quality of life in many, many ways. There are so many things that plastic has been made into that, you know, in the 1800s, people would not have had access to these tools, right? Plastic gives us tools. I don't love it when it's in our makeup. And I'll tell you a little story. When I was in high school, I wore probably way too much eyeliner, like the average person my age from the 2000 end of the 2000s. And I didn't know how allergic I was to my makeup until I stopped wearing it, until I felt a little more comfortable once I got in college. And my eyes weren't red anymore. Okay, so I tried a different eyeliner from from Walmart or Target or whatever regular grocery store people go to. And man, that one, like immediately I put it on, like, oh, just red eyes, red eyes, red eyes. Okay, and I also had like pretty much no eyelashes. I'm a pretty light haired person as is. So I don't have a lot of eyelashes to go around. So there became a point where I stopped wearing makeup entirely because I was so allergic to it. And there's a lot of things in the cosmetic world that, especially in the United States, that are problematic ingredients, not just the plastic type chemicals. I forget what the stat is, but it's like within the first couple hours of waking up, the average woman gets exposed to so many different personal care products. I'm not going to misquote. I want to say it's like 20 or 30 different personal care products, but Google me on that. That's a lot. That's really a lot. What about other types of personal care products? We've talked about cosmetics. What about perfumes, colognes, sprays, scents? I hate to break it to you guys, but all that stuff are plastic, petroleum-based products, plastic-based. Most of those bases are very carcinogenic. Well, let's see. Do I dare make that comment? They have potential carcinogenic properties. But they do, for a fact, absorb through our skin. Our skin is a phospholipid bilayer. Layman's term, our skin is fat. And fragrances, plastics, plasticizers, all these phthalates, bisphenol words that we're throwing around, absorb through our skin because they are plastic-based. Plastic is fat-based, so it can absorb right through our skin. Sucked in straight into our bloodstream, so we don't even get the cool detox pathways of our liver and our stomach acid to kind of help us like they do with. So we'll leave personal care products and come back, go to single-use items, plastic forks, other plastic utensils. When you get takeout, takeaway plates, takeaway bowls, styrofoam. Styrofoam is, I don't know if styrofoam is plastic, but styrofoam and heat is not optimal for human health either. Coffee cups, to-go coffee cups are lined with a plastic liner. Coffee and tea lined with a plastic container, maybe a paper bag, but it's lined with plastic. Cans, tin and aluminum cans, whether they're like a soda can or a beer can or a can of green beans. Worst offender is something acidic in those plastic bottles, something like vinegar in a plastic bottle, alcohol in a plastic bottle, tomatoes in a plastic bottle, or a plastic lined tin can. Tomatoes in there? No. If you're going to get tomatoes, it's one of the ways I like to reduce my plastic exposures is to get tomatoes and vinegar. And if I am consuming alcohol, things that are in a glass bottle are going to be non-reactive, meaning we're not going to absorb the plastics that the bottle is holding the vinegar or hot sauce in and getting it absorbed into the thing that we want to consume, whether it's our nice apple cider vinegar or I don't know. I drank a lot of Burnett's when I was in college. Burnett's in a glass bottle over Burnett's in a plastic bottle, right? Make somewhat of a smarter choice there. Okay, so we've talked about a few different places where we get plastic exposure. when we're out and about, I also wanted to talk about single-use plastic water bottles. We all know those ones, the great value from Walmart. They have the really crunchy bottle material. Uh, there's a problem with this. And that more gentle plastic is oftentimes more leaching into the water. Now, water is a pH of 7, so that's not the problem. The problem is those folks that leave the 30-pack of individual water bottles in their car. Okay, water, important to have water for emergencies. Absolutely, absolutely. So what do we do here? I am a big fan. I oftentimes will get bottles like this that have some kind of juice in them, and I keep them and then I can use them and clean them with like a little long, kind of like a baby bottle brush type of a thing. I also am a fan, I don't have it with me right now, but my stainless steel water bottle, not ideal for backpacking and outdoor adventures because it's a little heavier if you're like biking or backpacking, right? So my husband and I were just talking about getting like a camelback type thing, or they make these cool little like 1 liter plastic bottles that will fit right in a pocket. It's always a bummer when you're out skiing and you're having a great ski day and you have to like go stop and take a break and go to the bathroom and get some water. But if I just had like pockets in a ski jacket are nice and big, easily stick that. I just hate wearing a backpack when I'm skiing. Okay, so where else are we getting exposed to plastics? Our clothing. Our clothing is hugely made from plastic, polyester, rayon, any of the fake furs. What else? The pleather. Pleather has definitely got some plastics in it. It's unfortunate because plastic has made things so accessible and so much versatility can come out of plastic. So I am definitely demonizing it, but I'm also appreciative of the things that it has done for me, like create a phone case, to hold my phone, right? Like there is benefit to having plastic, but if we can make wise choices rather than just accepting that, oh, there's nothing I can do, forget it. I'm just going to have my vinegar in my plastic bottle and I'm going to always get the cheapest canned tomatoes, etc., etc. And I'm not saying break the bank. I'm just saying when you can, and it is possible to make wiser choices for you and your family, do so. Like, what's holding you back from that? It's, not the end of the world. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up eating tomato paste out of those small little cans. How big are those? Like 4 ounces or 8 ounces? And those are lined. Plastic, that's tomato concentrate, super acidic. So let's talk about this article. This article here, it's called Ingested Microplastics. Do Humans Eat 1 Credit Card Per Week? Right? We've all heard that headline. That's what got me curious and wanted to do this episode. Anyway, author is Pleats. He cites a couple other articles by Gruber and Mohammed and Bai, as well as, excuse the pronunciation, Senathiraja. Gruber and Bai, both articles published in 2022, based their calculations for the amount of microplastics the average human consumes, based on potentially, in this author's opinion, a misguided calculation. What I mean by that is combining units of things together that don't belong together. And if you guys remember back to whatever algebra class that was, where you have to convert different units to something else, like you convert inches into meters or miles into meters. That's probably a more appropriate conversion, right? But how do we do that and make it so it's a comparable comparison or comparable addition? So I like to look at opposing views to challenge my conception that we are consuming a ton of plastic. Every time I see my friends when we're at coffee dates and we sit there for an hour plus and they're sitting there with their to-go coffee cups, it's not that I'm judging them. It's like, could we reduce one more piece of plastic in the environment? Could you save yourself one bit of plastic exposure? Because coffee is, although not the most acidic thing, it's still acidic, but worse, it's hot. Hot and plastic, not good. It makes the plastic dissolve into whatever is in the ingredient or whatever is in the cup. So let's challenge this notion that we consume 1 credit card's worth of plastic a week. That's 5 grams about in a week. Okay, so what this author is saying is that this might be orders of magnitude grossly overestimated. And I'm not a statistician, so I'm not going to bore you with the statistics and math component, but it is always interesting when you see people that say, hey, like, how awesome is it in science when we get to say something like, oh my God, I just found out in my data that we are consuming a credit card worth of plastic. Like that's clickbait. That's going to make us listen and stop and say, hey, what's going on here? And pay attention. Well, I don't really know that many people that started being more mindful of their plastic consumption and where they're getting exposed. So what do we do about this? How did I approach reducing my plastic exposure, my plastic intake? Well, as I shared initially, I had some pretty significant allergies, so cosmetics, that was an easy thing for me to let go of. I will say that the natural cosmetics don't work as well. And if work means that you don't have to reapply your makeup more often, it's waterproof. Waterproofing definitely has PFAs in it, by the way. So you have PFA-laden eyelashes. Just our body has one liver. That's really where the passion comes from. Our body has one liver. It lives right here under the right rib cage. And we live in a world where we're asking our body to do the job of 12 livers. And so we see various illnesses, chronic illness, infertility, skin issues, a plethora of hormone issues. Endocrine disruptors means hormone disrupting. And I've talked about some categories: bisphenols, phthalates, parabens. These classes of plastics have all been associated with hormone disrupting properties. Hashimoto's is sky high in the US. Hashimoto's is low thyroid. It's an autoimmune condition. The thyroid is generally very sensitive to toxicity in the environment. When our liver gets burdened, the thyroid is then going to try and compensate and say, hey, liver, like, can you do your job? Like, I got to work. The thyroid is the master metabolic organ, and it's telling the digestive system, hey, you need to pick up the pace. Like, you've got 12 livers worth, and I'm just making that number up. But so you understand what I'm saying. Liver, do your job. Like, you've got all this back work you need to do. What are you doing here? You're wasting time. Get with the program. Start clearing this stuff out. So then the thyroid is taking a toll because of it. So I want to go back. What do I do? How do we approach this from a practical manner rather than a fear-based perspective? Start with one area in your home, all right? If you have lung issues, asthma, allergies, maybe starting by taking out the carpet in your bedroom and putting in hard floor. Vinyl has its own issues, but I do think vinyl over carpet is better. Most carpet, unless you're really going out of your way to get wool carpet, is plastic. It's polyester. And so now you have little polyester fluffs in your airway. And I don't know if you've ever seen or taken out carpet, but it is disgusting on so many levels. It just holds the allergens on top of it being plastic. Okay, so there's 3 ways that we primarily get plastic: ingestion, skin absorption, and inhalation. All of our lint, that's plastic usually. Most people are wearing plastic clothes, again, unless they are intentionally looking for naturally made clothing, which does tend to cost a little bit more and doesn't look what we in America have defined as nice, right? Because like a little more form-fitting. Anyway, so start with one room. Oftentimes the bathroom is the easiest place to start cleaning it out. There's an app I really like. It's called Think Dirty. It's a free app, and you can scan the barcode of whatever product you have and look and see, what does this group, I can't remember if the Environmental Working Group is who sponsors Think Dirty. Anyway, you can look on there and see what's the rating, and is this product, is this something I can live without? Is there something I can find to replace it? Right? There's all kinds of people on social media that are saying, hey, this product instead of this, right? Look, there's so many resources available. Okay, so start with the room. That's going to be the easiest or have the biggest impact. Another place that's relatively easy to start is the laundry room. Not necessarily clothing, but the detergents that we are using. Softeners are going to make your clothes soft, but at the cost of breaking down the fibers in your clothing. So if you wear a lot of form-fitting clothes and you just love the way that the softeners make your clothes smell, or you live in Colorado where it's super dry and therefore everything is crazy staticky when you take it out, maybe consider some wool balls. I was not skeptical of these at first, but it's something I've added in the last year to my process. I just stopped using softener. But upon moving back to Colorado, I've realized, man, oh man, everything is super staticky, and I feel like I just have a static charge on me. And getting a good quality pair of wool balls, I did compare them to a cheap pack from Walmart, like $5. Those ones did not seem to be as effective as getting a little bit of a nicer quality wool. But if $5 is all you can afford, you're going to save a ton of money by not buying a bottle of softener every month or every couple of weeks, depending on how much you use it. And your clothes are going to have longer lifespan because of it. Okay, so bathroom, laundry room, clothes. Okay, I don't love laundry detergents, things that are incredibly smelly. As I said before, smells tend to be made from plastics and therefore are carcinogenic, or at least endocrine disrupting, hormone disrupting. So I thrift store. I love cashmere. I love a good cotton. I love real jeans made out of 100% cotton. Rarely can I find those, so I settle with 99% cotton jeans. I try to source the natural fabric clothing from a thrift store. And there's definitely nicer areas to go to, right? In Colorado, we can go to some of the mountain towns where a little more the hoity-toity folk like to hang out, which is great. I'm okay with that. And if I get to get a nice cashmere sweater because of it, cool. I'm on board with it. What else about clothing? If you're going to start with clothes, don't go throw out your whole closet. That's ridiculous. You know there's clothes and dresses and things that you love that you're not willing to part ways with. So that's something to keep in mind, is like, is this feeding me on a soul level? And if so, awesome. Use that. Don't be too worried about it. Remember, like I've talked about on Instagram anyway, my 80-20 rule. Like, you do the best you can most of the time, 5.6 days out of the week. If you're doing the best you can, awesome. Like, that's all we can do, and I want to live a good quality life. The thing I will buy new, and I think most people probably agree with this, is socks, underwear, bras, other undergarments, right? Those things I'm not willing to buy from a thrift store. That seems pretty reasonable. I don't want to share my genital region with God only knows, just you. Who knows what people do? People are gross. So I choose brands that are made with organic cotton whenever possible. I don't love the quality that has been happening with Pact lately, PACT, but that's who I primarily use for my undergarments, my tank tops, my leggings, my undies. There are some cotton bra companies. I don't love nylon bras, but we live in a world where we've normalized nylon bras, and nylon is petroleum based. So, sometimes we make those choices, and hopefully it's the best choice we can make. Okay, so we've talked about bathroom, clothes, laundry room, removing carpet if you can, and when you can replace the floor. What about the kitchen? As I was going on about plastic Tupperware in the microwave, no plastic should be heated. I'll say that again. No plastic should be heated. That's spatulas, spoons, throwaway, like single-use plastic utensils should not be hot. They should not be hot. You are absorbing the plastic into whatever beautiful meal you just made. Tupperware should not go in the oven, should not go in the microwave. I don't own a microwave, but if I did, plastic would certainly not go in it. Fats and acids should never be kept in plastic. Now, I will backtrack on this and say one thing. Let's talk about cooking oils. Avocado, don't love. Extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil, I really do love. You should always, always, always buy them in glass. Always buy them in glass. Olive oil's glass should be tinted green or slightly brown to keep the antioxidants from oxidizing from the light. It is a little more sensitive of an oil. When we have rendered tallow or lard down from an animal we've harvested, we put those and store them in a glass jar. I have a glass jar box sitting right here, actually, in my closet in my office, of spare jars that have potential that are not being used right now for future use. Spices should never be kept in plastic. Spices are flavorful and kind of spicy and have interesting things. And what even got my attention here was I love to cook, and there was a spice, I want to say it was cardamom, when I was first learning to experiment with cardamom. Cardamom made something else taste like cardamom through the plastic bag it was in. And I was like, okay, that's weird. That's really weird. And I started then keeping all of my spices in glass jars because I buy in bulk. Maybe we need to do a how to buy food smartly. We'll do that another time. Okay, what about acids? Tomatoes, vinegar, lemon juice, none of that stuff should be bought and stored in plastic. No, absolutely not. Acidic is much like heating, where it's going to start to break down that plastic and absorb the plastic into whatever thing, whether it's vinegar, tomato sauce, tomato paste, spaghetti dressing, spaghetti sauce, all of those things should be in glass. Glass is non-reactive. Okay, glass is heavy, glass is impractical to ship. Glass actually is not the most sustainable thing to recycle. But part of recycling isn't just getting rid of it, it's also reusing the thing, right? So when we reuse a product, like my box of jars with potential up there, those are often things that have been reused. Like I've had them for a while, or like something cool came in this little jar right here that's perfect for a spice, but I just don't have a new spice that needs a new jar right now. And if you don't want to be a pack rat, that's okay. I'd rather you recycle it. Now, let's briefly, so we've talked about bathroom, laundry room, carpet, so household, and we've talked about kitchen and clothing. So then and remember, we're starting with one room and one thing at a time. Like don't go ham and like no one can, I don't know, maybe you can't afford to go ham and like totally remodel your entire home and remodel your entire lifestyle. That seems like a lot of change all at once, which would be stressful for me. So I'm a one room at a time kind of gal myself. Let's see, we talked about reusing. Okay. So maybe we're not consuming a credit card worth of plastic, but I suspect we're consuming a pretty large amount of plastic based on how we live, how the average American lives, and we just don't quite realize how much of our life revolves around plastic. When I had this realization, I was in college and I sort of had a meltdown about plastic because I was researching endocrine disruptors, and my colleague and I, we were doing an experiment with sea ferns. And sea ferns are a cute little plant, easy to culture, perfect for experimentation. Like the experiment cost us like $500 for 2 months. Like such a great experiment to do. We did not find anything in our initial findings that would suggest that endocrine disruptors interrupt plants in the same way that they do mammals, amphibians, and fish. However, I do think that doing that research really helped me understand some things that I might not have understood in the first place. For example, there was a study, and I don't remember all the details, but it was an animal study that was looking at, I forget which plastic. It might have been a bisphenol study. Regardless, some plasticizer, and they were looking at exposure in the parental generation. So if I got exposed right now to today to an insane amount of plastic, like I live next to a plastic melting facility and I got pregnant, that would be offspring 1. And then if my grandchildren were got exposed, that's offspring 2. Okay, so parental generation, offspring 1 is my kids, my grandkids would be offspring 2. What this study found in an animal model, keep that in mind, is that offspring 2 was by far the most impacted from parental generation 1 exposure. So it skipped a generation in its negative consequences.